Welcome to IDT Talks. I'm Anastasia Lavrina, and my guest today is a member of Azerbaijani Parliament, Nigar Arpadarai. Hello and welcome to our program.
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for finding the time to join our program here in Ada University. And I would like to talk with you about the current development in the region of the South Caucasus, and definitely we will touch some issues related to the global politics. And my first question, I would like to start with a statement made by the head of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Azerbaijan, Ceyhun Bayramov. He said that Azerbaijan and Armenia have switched to online diplomacy. We know about the statements made by Armenian side about the new proposal of peace agreement with Azerbaijan, which was said to Azerbaijani side, and the reply of Azerbaijani side to Armenian side. So, how do you see the development processes in the region of South Caucasus? And could we already speak about the progress achieved in the bilateral relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan?
Thank you, Anastasia, for having me today. And it's really, I think, an interesting place, definitely interesting place to be. And regarding the situation in the region, I would like to say that, first of all, it's very challenging situation in the whole world, with the security challenges, and stability is something that that is much needed in the world and in our region as well. But unfortunately, the main obstacle for stability and long-term peace in the region was always the fact that Armenia has occupied lands of Azerbaijan. I would like to remind once again that Armenia has occupied lands of Azerbaijan. Armenia has ethnically cleansed Azerbaijanis from their lands. There were long negotiations that lasted for almost 30 years that brought no result, and Azerbaijan managed to liberate its lands in 2020. Now, currently, there are more than 2 years passed since the end of the war in 2020, but we still have no peace in the region. Why is that? The main reason is that Armenia is not ready for peace. I may sound a bit pessimistic, but this is what we see now.
But they are saying that they are ready to sign the peace deal, but in reality, there is no concrete steps.
The problem is that their statements never align with their actions. They say one thing, they do another thing, and now we see again the same. If you remember, it was Armenian side that didn't come to negotiations in December. There were planned negotiations, but they didn't come. Then Azerbaijan has sent proposals. Armenian side is coming up saying that we have received that proposals for the peace deal a couple of days ago, when our spokesperson of MFA comes out saying that it was not a couple of days ago, it was 15 days ago. So, it shows that Armenian side is trying to win time. This is what they are trying to do. They don't want to sign this peace deal. And the reason for that is very, very clear, because their political system, their ideology is based on territorial claims towards their neighbors. National supremacy, racism, and territorial claims towards Azerbaijan. This is their whole ideology. I would like to remind once again that their constitution has territorial claims towards Azerbaijan, their declaration of independence. So in order to be able to sign peace deal, they need this, political will for that. It should be a decision, and they should reform their political system. It's a long process. But also one thing is clear, that our president has mentioned that we've been hoping that this peace deal will be signed in 2022. But unfortunately, that didn't happen, despite the fact that Armenia was sending positive messages, despite the fact that mediators were sending positive messages. It didn't happen. We will be working together to reach this peace deal in 2023. But our, time is not limitless. It's Armenia that needs this peace deal more than anyone in our region. It's the survival thing for them.
The last meeting between three leaders in the Munich Security Conference was quite discussable in different social media. The experts were predicting if there will be any kind of results in after. And just recently, I had a chance to speak with one Georgian expert who said that I wouldn't say that it will bring some positive outcomes in near future. So that means, again, Prime Minister of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan, decided to show publicly that they are willing to sign a peace deal with Azerbaijan, but in reality, we have to wait some more time. But you rightly mentioned the time for Azerbaijan is not limitless.
Absolutely. And also, Prime Minister Pashinyan is saying one thing, he's making these statements, but in reality, they are trying to win time in order to bring in third parties, you know? It can be EU mission, it can be anyone. You know, they've been trying to do that during the wartime. The whole strategy was around creating this chaos, you know, and dragging in third parties. But it was the issue between Azerbaijan and Armenia. No third parties should have been involved. But again, we see that from Armenian side. They are making statements, but in reality, they want other parties to get involved.
Within the last 3 decades, Azerbaijan could develop very successfully multi-vector diplomacy. We had a very good cooperation with Turkey, with Georgia, with Russia, with Iran before the recent circumstances we observed in the region, with many countries all around the globe. And we have never tried to take one side. And it was a real success of our government. And we know about the visit, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia to Azerbaijan, Sergei Lavrov. My first part of my question, how do you think Azerbaijan, in these geopolitical changes we observe in the world, can manage and continue this multi-vector diplomacy?
You have truly mentioned that we successfully managed to have this multi-vector policy. And head of Russian MFA, Lavrov, is coming to the country, and it's neighboring country, it's our partner. We will have bilateral negotiations, the regional issues will be discussed. It's all going to be in place. But there's one thing that I want to remind you, and just the thing that is really being discussed and appreciated. It's the fact that there are rare, if you look at the world map, you know, you won't see many small countries that can truly proud to be independent, you know, independent and sovereign. Azerbaijan managed to do that. Because of a number of geographical, historical, demographical reasons, we can say that we are proud to be a small country, but we are an independent country. And one of the reasons, and one of the main reasons for that, is that our president is a very mature, experienced diplomat who has managed to navigate Azerbaijan for many years through all these challenging times. And he's always saying that the independence of Azerbaijan, its sovereignty, is number one priority for me. And what we see in reality is that Azerbaijan is a reliable partner for for neighboring countries, for all of its partners. Our word means a lot, you know. Our word and our signature is the same thing. And whether it's head of Russian MFA or any head of MFA of any other European country or any other country, we are open for any kinds of discussions. We always have our interest and we have our position in place. We are not trading off our sovereignty as Armenia does, you know, but we will never allow any party to drag in Azerbaijan into any confrontation against another and against third parties.
So it's more about multi-beneficial, mutually beneficial
it's
cooperation.
bilateral relations. It's mutually beneficial relations, open and honest, based on international law. This is what we do always.
You know, you already started to answer my next question about the statements made by some experts and even the politicians in some countries that, for example, the Western countries may decide to use Azerbaijan against Russia, or Russia may decide to use Azerbaijan against Western powers. In my understanding, it's not true, because Azerbaijan, as you rightly mentioned, independent, sovereign countries which always prefer to put its own national interest at the first stage. What can you tell us about
Yes, I have already started to answering this question, but it is, you know, if you look at the world map now, there are different centers of gravity, you know, you have Western world, you have Asian world, even in the West you have American, you have European. So all these parties, you know, they all have their interest. And they all, of course, they want to have their influence into our region. This is the reason that they are actually trying. Sometimes we see their help or support to Armenia, because they are using Armenia to be able to influence this part of the world. In case of Azerbaijan, Azerbaijan will never allow any party to use itself against other party, against other country. This is our policy. As I said, international law, mutual respect, and reliable, friendly relationships. That's what we do. And also what we see, for example, even in the case of such countries like France, we see many unfriendly steps from France. We see statements of their MPs, of their Senate, of different politicians. But even in this way, we are very open. We are not overreacting. We are putting up our positions that, yes, France is doing these unfriendly things. France cannot be a mediator in this process. But again, we will not let anyone use us against any other party, as I said. So basically, yes, there are different challenges that we face and the world faces in the security system, in all other issues. But we have our policy, which is based on international law and mutual respect to our neighbors.
But we know about Armenia, which is being used by many powers in the world. For almost 3 decades, it was used by Russia, which had a very huge level of influence in Armenia and still has it there. We know that today Armenia tries to think about cooperation with France as mutually beneficial, but in reality we know that France is using Armenia in its own geopolitical interest in the region. And the decision to have this European mission on the territory of Armenia, on the border with Azerbaijan, it's another proof of the fact that Europe can use Armenia in its own goals in the region of the South Caucasus. So could you tell us more about how exactly other countries are using Armenia in its own purposes, and why do you think Armenia is ready to be used by others?
I started saying about this international gravity gravity centers, and coming to European situation now after the Brexit, what we see that after UK left, France is trying to hijack international foreign policy, and this is the reason that France is abusing European institutions and using to manipulate and to bring in its own interests. This is the reason when we see, statements of European parliaments and this kind of EU mission to the territory. It's a different parties of the Europe itself, because Europe is also not united. They have their own problems. They have their own fights. And now in this case, countries like France trying to abuse its power to have their impact and their interest in the region. But you are absolutely right. In all this situation, Armenia is the losing side, is the losing party, because it's being used by all these powers. France, European Union, when it sends their mission, they don't think about Armenia. They don't think about Armenian side. They have their own interests. Armenia is turning into kind of a project, that is being used by other powers. It's a tool, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, but this is a decision of the Armenian side. And in your understanding, how will Europe itself understand the possible consequences of its policy towards Azerbaijan and Armenia? For example, again, the decision to send the humanitarian mission in Armenia. We know that the first mission sent in October last year was not successful. And again, they came to the decision to send another mission to the region. Do you think that they understand what kind of consequences this decision may bring?
Well, first of all, whether this mission is humanitarian or not, or what it is, there are lots of questions.
Sure.
It's definitely not transparent. Definitely not transparent. And whether it will bring some benefit, I have big doubts about that. But Europe is big. Europe is not united, as I said, and Europe has its problems itself. We have France, Germany, we have Poland, Hungary, all have with their division lines between themselves. Italy is not like Germany or France, etc. Azerbaijan has very good relations with many European countries. And Azerbaijan has good relations with European Union. We just have to work a bit on it. It's some countries of the Europe that are trying to use European Union institutions and structures, as I said, to bring in their agendas and their, their interests. But I think that in this sense, Azerbaijan should and will be working with every European country the way we do, because all those countries will eventually, all those countries like Romania, Hungary, and European countries will come up saying that, okay, we are not France. Why are we why France is hijacking, and using European institutions to pressure Azerbaijan and the situation in the region. It's not the case. It's not going to work like that. And it's really not going to work like that. And in our case, for example, Mr. President is always saying that, for example, Charles Michel, we have very good relations.
Brussels format of negotiations.
Yes, absolutely, and very good relations, and it goes in a positive direction when we have under his mediation, all these talks. But Emmanuel Macron can't be the one mediating in the whole process. It's obvious. My point is that Europe is not united, and we have to work with countries separately and with European Union as well. We have our normal relations. It's just some of the countries of the European Union trying to use European structures to influence.
We already touched the point about the Brussels format of negotiations, and even at the Munich Security Conference, we remember the statement made by Secretary Blinken. He said that he expects to have more coordination between two sides, and even they were said that probably two leaders from Armenia and Azerbaijan can meet in Brussels in the nearest time. But in my understanding, if there is such kind of meeting, there should be concrete step forward. Do you think that Armenian side is ready to make this step forward?
Unfortunately, when I speak about steps forward, I always sound a bit pessimistic. But again, it's all because Armenian side. I don't see Armenian side being ready for peace deal and peace talks. Again, as I said, they will try to bring in third parties. They will try to bring lots of excuses why this or that point of the peace deal cannot be signed and cannot be agreed upon. I don't feel like they have a real decision, to continue, because in their situation, Armenia is in a deep crisis. They had this illusion that they are a victorious state. They have occupied our lands. They kept it under occupation for many years, and they had this dream of a greater Armenia from sea to sea, which is a very delusional one. And in reality, what they did, they have been trading off their sovereignty, because their western borders are being guarded by Russia. Their eastern border is being monitored by EU mission. What kind of sovereignty and independence is that? And why they've been doing that? They've been doing that because they wanted to keep our lands under occupation forever. They would never want to liberate those lands. They had their plan, because it's included into their constitution, into their laws. So their political system is expansionist. The whole political system, their ideology is expansionist. It's the only mono-ethnic country in the region. So these are all facts.
I would say in the world even.
Even in the world, yes. It's all facts. So unfortunately, they make statements, and maybe Prime Minister Pashinyan wants to have this peace deal with Azerbaijan, but in reality, their political system is not ready for that, because they will try. This is the reason that they will try to win time more and more, and they will try to again prolong the whole process. But
Exactly.
let's see how it goes.
They need other states to continue its policy towards Azerbaijan, against Azerbaijan.
Yes, Anastasia, and just answering to your question, how European Union should be reacting on that, and what is European Union's position on that? European Union strategically should understand that peace deal in this part of the world, like stable and secure South Caucasus, is good for them, because it's a larger Europe, because it's a lots of projects, economic projects, transit projects, transport projects, and this is in their benefits as well as the European Union. So I think that time will show. Eventually we will come to that point. Maybe not now, maybe it will take time, but eventually we will.
I guess the countries even in Europe very good understand the situation in the region, because they are coming to Azerbaijan. I mean, the representative of different companies, the ministers, they're coming and saying that they're willing to support Azerbaijan in the process of development of new infrastructure in the region, energy projects, especially energy. For them, it's playing a crucial role at the moment. And I would like to sum up our discussion today with a very important issue, with a key point, I will say, for the future development of the region. Remember, at the Munich conference again, Mr. President Ilham Aliyev mentioned that we should think about checkpoints on the Lachin road, which is quite logical. Karabakh is a part of Azerbaijan. It's worldly recognized by the international community as well. And it's quite logical that on the territory of Azerbaijan, there will be a checkpoint on the Lachin road. This is a good question for Armenian side to think about opening of Zangezur corridor. Remember, every time Mr. Pashinyan was saying that we cannot do it because we are scared about our territorial integrity, we should think about checkpoints. Okay, let's think about the checkpoints on the Lachin road, which is quite good, understandable, and in my understanding can be supported by different countries even in Europe.
Absolutely. The whole situation with Lachin Road, now we see that Armenia is again trying to exaggerate, to manipulate this whole thing. They are trying to make this information fuss around the whole thing. Lachin, just to remind, Lachin Road is a temporary thing. It's a humanitarian road. It is the consequence of trilateral statements signed between Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Russia. And when the mission of Russian peacekeeping military contingent is over, so the time for Lachin Road is also going to be over. And the goal now is to integrate the community, the Armenians living in Karabakh, into Azerbaijani, let's say, society and Azerbaijani Azerbaijan. And and what Armenian side is trying to do now is again trying to manipulate the international, information system and trying to show things that in reality do not exist. So from that point of view, the thing that Mr. President mentioned about checkpoints, it's a very good step. It could be a next step. It could be a symbolic step in Armenia-Azerbaijan dynamics. If we would manage to do that, then it would show that we are ready for further delimitation of borders. So again, but it's not a big surprise that Armenian side said no, unfortunately, to that. But eventually we will come to that point also, I believe, because the reality is there. The international law is there. Karabakh is Azerbaijan. It has always been. It will always be. And Lachin Road is also Azerbaijan. It will always be. So it's just, step by step, we need to bring this region to peace, to stability, which is very important first for Armenia, because for them it's the survival thing. They are in a deep crisis. They need to go out of the crisis. For us, it's the good thing to have a stability in the region, and it's a new potential. So overall, I believe that we will come to that point eventually.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming to IDG Talks today and sharing with us your views and your experience. It was a real pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you so much for this interesting discussion. Good luck.